Hello everyone, it's Kevin Lopez, and today we are going to talk about how to implement Code Interpreter inside Mindstudio. For those of you who don't know what Code Interpreter is, it's basically a function of ChatGPT that allows to perform analysis on your data. To do so, ChatGPT is allowed to generate code and execute that code in a sandbox environment where it can get the result, and in the result you can have figs as well as statistical information or anything else. The problem is that if you want to use Code Interpreter, you need to have access to ChatGPT+, and you cannot use Code Interpreter in with open source model, because the Code Interpreter thing is part of the OpenAI API. So I decided to try to reproduce the Code Interpreter things and make this available for any kind of model. And to do so, what I've done is I created an endpoint that is able to execute Python code and return the print statement as well as the created figs. I think that everyone should be able to use Code Interpreter with whatever model they want. With this in mind, let's jump in the workflow and see how we can build something like that. Keep in mind that the Code Interpreter function is not available right now, but they will be pushed as soon as possible in the GitHub, so you can use this in the community function. For those of you who are interested in testing this early, you can just click on the link below. It will redirect you to the IA application made public that you can remix and that include the function block. But anyway, let's jump in the Mindstudio workflow. Back to the workflow panel, you can already see two functions. The idea is that for the functions that run the Python code to work, you need the AI to generate some code. And for the AI to generate code that is relevant regarding your data, you first need to provide insight about the content of your data, which means that you should provide to the AI the column name as well as the format and the expected data to find inside. The first function is called info code interpreter and is here to return the column name and the type of data that are in your file. So for that first function, what you have to do is provide the URL of the file you want to get insight about. You need to convert that URL to text, and to do so, you will ask a simple AI model to get the URL and convert that URL back. Let's configure this first. We need user input. This user input is about the file, so create new, upload file. We just call that data, and select no processing to just return the URL of your file. Great, so now that you have the file URL input, what you have to do is convert that URL to text. And to do so, you just have to copy paste what I will provide in the description, which is the instruction for that message. Then you have to turn this to assign to variable and name this URL T. The first part is done. Now we can send this to the first function that will return the content of our file. Let's call this info, and here we should use the URL T variable. Okay, so now that we have info about the structure of our file, what can we do about this? So the idea is not to confuse the AI by asking for insight and code. The idea is to have an AI that is able, based on the structure of a file, to generate some metrics of interest and ask for another AI to write code corresponding to the relevant metrics. So we have multiple AI, one that is called like business analyst, which is the one that will retrieve all the possible way to analyze the data based on the provided file, and another one that is responsible to generate Python code based on the information sent by the business analyst AI. Then, once the results are returned, they are provided to a final AI model that is responsible to provide insight based on the generated results, statistical analysis, and to show you the graphical representation behind your data. So yeah, it's a lot, but you will see it's very simple. Let's build this step by step. The first step is now to create the business analysis prompt. And this information should be saved as a variable that we will call analyst. Now we need a little bit of instruction to make sure the AI will not output something that is not relevant regarding our application. So the idea is to first introduce the AI by telling it that it is here to provide a lot of insight and to act as a business analyst. Then you provide an example of the kind of metrics that should be sent to the Python dev, which is the AI Python dev, and the extracted information from your data frame based on the uploaded file. We also talk about what the business owner wants, and we actually forgot to put this block. So let's create it. user input. Now you need to ask the user what they want to know about their data. So let's just call this insight. Great, so back to the instruction. So the info is provided as well as the instruction from the user, and it will generate a list of metrics. Now we need another send message block. So this new send message block will be saved as a variable too, and it's the code that will be generated by the AI and sent to the next function. So let's call this code. And here also we have some specific instruction to make sure it will output only code. The first part of the instruction is here to tell the AI that it's a Python dev and it's specialized in data science and graphical representation. It knows a lot about all the necessary library. As you can see, there is also a little example of what kind of Python code is expected from the AI. We also have some little more instruction to make sure it doesn't include unwanted character. We also provide the data frame info. We provide the instruction from the analyst, that was the previous send message, and that's all, because it does not need to have information about the user request since it's kind of included in the analyst instruction. We can take a look at the function now, the last function that will run the code. You see that the output variable corresponds to the generated image URL that will correspond to the figs. So let's call this image URL. Then we have text, and the file is stored as URL t. Code to generate is stored as code. So the function is ready. What we have to do is create the next send message block that will concat every information from the user request to the returned information and graphical representation from the function. Last instruction. And this one is also a business analysis AI that will get the user request and the text content of the retrieved information as well as the image. With this last step, the AI will be able to provide you detailed insight and review about your data, including some graphical representation if it's relevant. Let's see this in action now. Just run the preview. So the first step is to upload a file. For that example, I have downloaded a file from Kaggle about students' working hours and performance. Now we just have to wait until the first function is finished and return the content of your data file. Great, so you can see that the info were stored and are displayed right there. And let's say that I want to get insight about my students' performance. Please make a regression as well as an histogram. Now the idea is that the Python function will have both the structure of your file and the content sent by the business analyst, and will generate code to make graphical representation about histogram and regression, as well as doing some basic statistical analysis to make sure that the review provided is well made and based on facts. So the AI is starting to generate text. We can see the first representation that will be displayed. It's a regression. Great. We are really happy that this is working for the first time. And we got the histogram generated by the AI. We got something else. We got the distribution. Whoa, great. Unexpected, but great. You see that it's kind of success reproduction of code interpreter from OpenAI, and soon you will be able to use this with any model of your choice inside Mindstudio for free. For those of you who want to see a little bit more of details about how this is possible, it's due to an endpoint that I created that is able to read and execute Python code, as well as saving figs converted to base64, and another endpoint that just return the content of your file to make sure that the AI is able to create relevant code. Anyway, so it's the end of that tutorial. I actually enjoyed a lot working on these code interpreter things. I hope that you found that interesting and for sure that you will use this. Don't hesitate to make comments below if you have a specific request or just if you appreciate the work. Cheers everyone, see you next time.